It is a balmy 57, 60 degrees, probably colder than that. I'm sitting in the shade right now, and I took my big wool sweater off, and I'm thinking I might have to put it on, but I want to talk to you guys about sustainable meat sources. Um, we all love chicken. We definitely love chicken. We are getting some meat chickens, and yes, we are doing some broiler chickens. Now, that is not sustainable. That is not something that we could ever do if, the shit hits the fan and we need to get access to meat. We're not going to be having baby chicks delivered to our door. It's not going to happen. So it is convenient. They grow out very fast, and it is why we are still going to choose them as long as we're able to, because we can grow out meat for very, very cheap and feed them very good food, give them a good life in the tractors. I don't, love that that's as long as they are going to live, but really that's how we're going to eat them anyway. So for us, the meat chickens are not sustainable. It definitely would be a better option to have a heritage breed that is dual purpose, or like generally purposed for meat, like some of the bigger breeds. But the problem with that is they take a really long time to grow out, and they take a big feed input. Now, on our farm, our chickens are not free range, so it is not a sustainable source of meat. It is a very expensive source of meat. It is actually much cheaper for us to get the broiler chickens. I calculated it with the feed that we currently feed, which is $42 a bag from Azure Farms. It is about $3 per pound. Now, right now we are paying sometimes upwards of $19 a pound for chicken, and it's gotten to the point where the regenerative farms, the pasture, like the good quality chicken is just, it's becoming unaffordable. And so we have really moved to eating more beef, and this has really been since that bird flu, whatever fiasco that they created to kill all these chickens and drive the prices up. When in history has turkey and chicken been more expensive than beef, grass-fed beef? So we decided to do our own broiler chickens this year, but it is not sustainable. So we are also setting ourselves up and preparing to have sustainable meat. And that is from two sources. There is our short-term, very quick source, which is our meat rabbits. Those guys are over here in their meat tractors, hanging out on their shelves, eating grass. Those guys are a very fast source of meat in that they will have babies every 4 weeks, and you can be growing out baby bunnies every 8 to probably about 10 weeks, depending on how much you're feeding them. So 10 to 12 weeks, it's going to be slower than the broiler chickens, but for us, there is no input. There is no cost input. There was building them, their setup, their enclosures, and we are able to grow all of their own food, all of the food for them. They really do not cost us anything to proliferate, and that is sustainable. Now, and do we love rabbit as much as we love chicken? No, but it's sustainable. Now, long term are these guys right here. These are our Muscovy ducks, and right now we have our drake, and we have 5 females. I say long term because it takes a lot longer to set up. It takes about a year, anywhere from 8 months to a year, depending on when they were hatched out, because Muscovies are only going to lay pretty well 2 to 3 seasons a year. They're going to start laying their eggs, having clutches. They make fantastic moms. So you will wait a year for your birds to lay. So if you get baby ducklings, which I highly suggest you do, and tame them, because these ducks here, they are not tame. Like, I had to clip their wings the other day because they were flying off. The first while they were staying, and then they were leaving, and that just can't happen here. It can't happen. They need to stay here. So it was not a fun experience to clip their wings, to catch them and clip their wings. I like how my chickens are. They jump on my lap, and they're very friendly, except 2 of them. But I want all of my animals to have that trust. So when it comes to the meat from the ducks, it is taking longer to get established. But again, no input. These ducks barely eat any feed. They eat bugs. They go all around our property. They do not destroy my garden. They do not have really gross poop. It's like a more liquidy. It's not like a goose poop. It's not a gross poop. They don't smell. And they can go all around my property and they can eat bugs and they feed themselves. But, these girls are going to start laying in the spring. They will have a clutch that needs to grow out, and it will take time. But as you have, within a couple years, you're going to have these ducks growing out on a regular basis that enables you to have a really good source of red meat with very, very little input. So really, these for us are our sustainable food. Now, the other thing for us, we have 5 acres and we have 2 full acres of grass and another half acre, which is here behind my garden. Now, the other thing that is sustainable for us is sheep on a high density grazing schedule. So they need to have small areas, but they will need some input in hay. And for us, we would be doing for dairy. We would be growing our sheep more so for dairy. We would be eating the babies, and that is another couple year plan, but we do have enough grass for that to be sustainable. Now in Florida, the only way that would work is if we have irrigation and can grow a perennial rye. There is a perennial rye that you can grow that will grow back every year, so you don't need an outside source to reseed the rye. It is more expensive than buying the annual rye because rye does not like our summers, so you can find a perennial rye. And then having the bahia come in the summer. Now in the summer, we really don't most of the time need irrigation. Sometimes we have really bad droughts, and at that point irrigation is very important. Now we run into the discussion, how sustainable is the well. You definitely need to have a backup for power to be able to make that sustainable. And in a sense, is that really long-term sustainable? No. So you do have to look at that. For us, sheep is the most sustainable way we can have milk and have dairy, but how really long-term sustainable is it without a well? Not very. But would we be able to grow enough to hay? No, we don't have enough land. So when it comes to the most sustainable, that is going to be our Muscovies and our rabbits. And even having chickens for eggs, the only way that would work is if we were free ranging, and we would lose so many of them to predators. So think about your area. If you're thinking of a sustainable meat, for sure, anywhere rabbits are going to be sustainable. They can be anywhere. Now, less sustainable in places where you can't grow food like we can all year round for them. I can grow their food all year round, so you would have to have some land to be able to create hay if you're in colder places, or store some food or hay. There's people who will actually hay clover and do that themselves. Like, you don't actually have to have a lot of high-tech devices to do it. People have been making hay for a long time. And ducks are a really great source, but again, in the winter, if it's winter there and you don't have access to food, where in the winter here we will lose a lot of our bug population. Everything goes dormant. Even though it's Florida, people think, oh, it's so beautiful. A lot of things are going dormant. So we will see how that happens, how that goes with the ducks, and how much feed we have to input in the winter months. But for us, that's December and January. So it's not very long. And there are days where it warms up and the bugs start coming out again. So just food for thought. If you're thinking about your homestead, you really want to think about a sustainable meat. You want to be thinking about what's your water source. And I'm hoping that, this never comes into play, that we need to use this, but definitely in my prepper mind, where's your water? Where's your heat? We don't really have to worry about that too much with the heat in Florida, because you will survive. You're not going to die here. Now the summer, you will survive. It's going to be really uncomfortable, but you will survive. So we don't have to worry too much about that, but you do have to think, where is your sustainable meat? What can you grow? In Florida, we can grow all year. So it's just, what can we grow when to feed our family? And, if you have winter, then what can you preserve? What can you keep going for the entire year? But things that I think about, and not from a place of fear, because you really don't want to be, just checking if I have some fire ants crawling up my leg. We could just live off fire ants. There's abundance of them. They do go dormant in the winter. The chickens do eat the fire ants. That's really cool to see them go at a fire ant nest. But I actually like fire ants. On a tangent here, they keep my coops very clean. There is no poop in those coops. They clean up everything. They are really good cleaners. Just don't step in their nest. But, we don't want to do it from a state of fear. You have to enjoy doing this. If you don't enjoy the gardening, if you're just doing it, it's not going to last. Like if it's out of fear, if it's out of that, you've got to enjoy it because it is a lot. It is never ending to-do list. And you've got to have some joy in that. And, but think about those things. Rabbits, definitely highly recommend you consider. They definitely are the easiest thing to do. And ducks are really great. I really like these Muscovies. Very excited to hatch out my own babies and have some friendly ones that will come and jump on my lap and poop on me. We'll aim that end the other way, but we're gonna take advantage of what we can. I would love to have a cow. Not sustainable. They require so much land, but I would love to have my own dairy cow, but it's probably not going to happen. If it does, it might just be a fun thing that we experiment with. Definitely they're worth their weight in gold. But whenever you're breeding, oops, my little thing fell out. Hopefully it still works. Whenever you're breeding any type of animal, there are losses. There is, there's a lot of loss that can happen and will happen. So you have to consider that, and that's the great thing with rabbits and ducks. They proliferate. They reproduce. Proliferate, that's really not the right word. They are going to reproduce at a very, very high rate. So definitely good ones to consider.